tricep exercise. I say this all the time. I don't have a favorite. I don't think there's a best. I think it's you need to switch things up. But that being said, I'm gonna go with what seems to help my bench quite a bit is doing some, after my speed work, if I do some close grip work, basically with the same bands or chains or whatever the fuck I did my speed work with, and then just start adding weight and work up like a couple heavy sets, like 3s, 5s, to a 2 board. When my bench is at its best, it seems to be when I'm doing that consistently. So that if I had to pick a favorite, that would probably be it. But like I said, you don't want to get narrowed down, because you want to do lots of different things and hit lots of different angles. Some of the common ones we do is like dumbbell rollbacks. I like skull crusher push-ups. Kind of put a bar in the rack, put your hands at shoulder width, and just kind of almost do like a JM press motion where you lower your face down to the bar. I like doing slower eccentrics on most of my tricep stuff lately. Seems to be helping. We used to do like shit for time. We would like pick 2 tricep exercises that are a little bit different, maybe a reverse grip push down, and then more of a kind of a compound movement, like say a dumbbell skull crusher. And you pick a weight that you think you can do like 20 or 30 times, and then just superset back and forth doing sets of like 10 or 12, and we do that for time. So we might go, what up, Ben Woods? We might go like week 1 5 minutes, week 2 8 minutes, week 3 10 minutes, and then switch the exercises. Those seem to work pretty good. So that's another one. We haven't done that in a long time. Bamboo bar skull crushers with the swinging weights are real good. I like those. So there's a lot. But like I said, that close grip board work after speed bench seems to help my bench go up. Like when I'm strong on that, my bench seems to start taking off. So here's how. Somebody's asking about briefs. Best briefs for beginners by Elite FTS. Beginning for what? Are they using them to protect their hips? Are they eventually going to compete multiply? What's the end plan for the beginner, I guess? I need to know. I guess I don't need to know. I'll answer both. Honestly, if you're going to compete multiply, just get some fucking multiply gear and fucking learn it. Yeah, you can get really, really good at it and practice it a lot and kind of learn all the nuances and little tweaks and stuff you can do to it to really help you out, but it's not that hard to get some fucking double ply gear and learn to squat and briefs. So, if that being said, if let's say you're working with somebody who's gonna eventually compete multiply, I like the Pro Aces. They're a little bit thicker, a little stiffer, give you a little more pop. That's what I typically train in. Now, if you're just working with an athlete who's looking for a little bit of support in the hips, I'd go with like the next one's down. I think it's the fuck is the name of it? Metal Viking. I don't know. On the website, the Metal Pro Ace is in the middle. Over to the left, I don't know why I can't think of the name, is the other ones. They're a little bit more forgiving, a little softer material. Personally, I don't like the Jack material, the orange material. For me, it's super chunky, and it just kind of puts me in a bad position when I'm squatting. So it really kind of like beats up my hips actually, because there's so much material like bound up where my what up X kind of binds up in my hips, and it like pulls on my back kind of, and my hips kind of weird. So I'm not a big fan of those, but that's just me. So like I said, athlete, go with the one with a little less support, and if you're gonna jump into multiply, just go with the Ace Pros. I want to say Metal Viking briefs. They're all black. In the picture, they're just all black. My favorite fat bar, the one I'm not using. I don't know. The one at my gym. We have one that rotates. That's nice. We have the El Gordo, which is just a solid bar. Donnie makes one. It's pretty similar. That's a cool bar. I like that too. Really doesn't matter. Fat bars. I mean, it kind of depends on your hand circumference too. Like we used to have a fat bar at college. It was just too fucking big. Like it's just a pain in the ass to use. So, best accessory work for staying upright during sumo deads. I'm gonna say, let's answer this assuming your technique is good, which for most people, we can probably fix that upright problem you're having with some coaching and just learning some things about the lift. But if all that shit's intact, I'm gonna say upper back. I'm gonna say seated rollover good mornings with a yoke bar or with a buffalo bar with some bands pulling forward, so you arch up and crank your lats into it. Rows to your stomach, seated rows, underhand seated rows, dumbbell rows. Now with all that work, you've got to learn how to use your lats too. That's why I hesitated, because it wasn't really until just a few months ago that I really feel like I learned how to lock my upper back in and keep me upright on a sumo deadlift. I didn't get pulled forward much, but it was just something in the last couple of months that everything really clicked, and I kind of felt my upper back lock in. So do those, roll like a motherfucker. You still have your athletes perform max effort work in season. Would depend on the sport. Yeah, it depends on the sport, depends on their schedule, depends on their needs, depends on their training level, depends on them, depends on what makes them feel good and ready to go for competition day. So, in season, for the most part, you're probably gonna modify your max effort. It's probably not gonna be true max effort work. A lot of times it'll be work up to something heavy and then kind of cut it back a little bit or something like that. So a lot of factors that go into that. Well, all right. What is the rationale for box squatting onto a foam pad? Also, what is the benefit? I think Louis was doing this years ago. And then I think he kind of got away from it. I've never done it much. I think what it can be used for is if you got somebody plopping on a box, you can can kind of use it as a teaching aid. So they can sit and reach, and once they feel the foam, well, that's usually kind of the point where they would plop and smash the box. So if they feel that foam, then they know to slow down because they're almost there. So you can use it as a teaching aid. I think that's a cool idea for it. I think it can help with compression, which if you box squat right and you're not getting a ton of compression anyways, like your back is fine. But you know, some people with back issues, it will help them. The theory kind of is like you kind of sit into it and kind of sink, so it's harder to stand up out of, if that makes sense. Is it beneficial? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't messed with it much. I think, and I could be wrong, but they were squatting into giant pieces of foam at Westside like maybe 10 years ago or whatever, and I think they stopped. This is like secondhand information, but they kind of stopped because it was messing up their timing when they would go to a meet on a regular squat. So, but like I said, that's all secondhand information, but that's what I heard. Nobody at my school wanted to do dynamic speed and laughed at it until the kid that was an inch away from dunking all of a sudden was jamming the shit down. Now that's all they want to do. This brings up a great fucking point. Yeah, it fucking works. Somebody posted, who the fuck sent me a video? Somebody sent me a video today. They got this high school kid jumping through the fucking roof. A few months ago, he couldn't do it. And I had a high school basketball client about a year ago now. He was like a 6'6" sophomore going into junior year, couldn't dunk. And I just started working with him online, and he'd send me videos and stuff. And all we did was dynamic work and accessory work for like 2 months, maybe 3. I want to say it was like 11 weeks. It was 11 weeks when he sent me the other video. But like 11 weeks later, he's jumping through he's fucking tossing the ball off the backboard and catch it, fucking reverse dunk. And all we did was clean up his squat form. That made him stronger and more explosive, and then the accessories made him stronger. Like, it's so fucking simple. I can't fucking understand why people can't fucking get it. Now, a young high school athlete, I get. If they don't understand the point of it, I understand. You know, they think they're in the weight room, you gotta lift heavy shit for it to work. But like, grown-up adult who's had fucking at least a high school education, probably some college, I can't understand how the fucking dynamic effort method doesn't make sense. I don't get it. So anyways, yeah, do your fucking speed work because it fucking works. How jacked up do you think you need a certain body weight to squat ratio to jump high? I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I think you should squat and it'll help you jump higher if you continue to train jumps. That's all I know. And I don't know at what point you need to stop getting stronger. I kind of wrote about that in my last article, like how strong is strong enough or something like that. So just fucking train. Don't worry about ratios. Powerlifters be athletes doing both speed squats and speed pulls in the same dynamic day. Powerlifters be athletes. What the fuck? I think you're trying to fucking make a joke. Let me read and see if I can read this. Powerlifters be athletes doing both speed squats and speed pulls in the same dynamic day. So I think what you're saying is that's some crazy shit when powerlifters do both in the same day. Like they think they're athletes, or that gives them an athlete card. Does that give a powerlifter, if a powerlifter does speed squats and speed deadlifts in the same fucking speed workout, does that give them an athlete card? Are they an actual athlete? Because if so, I got my fucking athlete card back, which I thought I completely fucking lost years ago. That's what I think you're trying to say. Or, let's look at your question from another angle. Powerlifters or athletes doing both. What are my thoughts on powerlifters or athletes doing both speed squats and speed pulls in the same dynamic workout? If that was your question, yes, you should do both. That's how they're kind of designed. That's, you know, an athlete is not a powerlifter, right? They don't have to be good at the deadlift. They don't have to go perform a deadlift on game day. I completely understand that. But the deadlift is a great forgotten exercise in the training of athletes that can help them immensely if it's done right. My teams that we put in speed pulls with had, it really helped them out. The deadlift's a great exercise to build your whole body, and it will do so in ways that a squat won't. Your upper back's involved. You know, it's different. It builds your body. I think it's really beneficial. And I'm talking about a fucking deadlift, not a sumo, not a fucking trap bar thing. But yeah, it helped hip development. It helped upper back development. And here's the thing with speed deadlifts with athletes, you're keeping the load light enough so you're not going to fuck their backs up, as long as their form is pretty good. So you're doing a good exercise that can put some muscle on, teach them how to move fast, work on hip mobility, all these fucking things without kicking the shit out of them with a lot of weights. So that's why it's beneficial. Our baseball guys stick out. We had a good group of guys. They trained really hard. They were motivated, attentive in the weight room. We introduced speed pulls, and it was like a couple months later I started noticing like some real improvements in like their upper back development and hamstrings. And I think that I'm pretty, you know, the speed pulls, they helped with that. I know they did. So, and vertical jumps and all the fucking other indicators went up. So, yeah, do them. Do fucking both. And maybe you can get your fucking athlete card back. I haven't. I'm not a fucking athlete. Make that fucking clear right now. Alright, let's see what easiest difference between conjugate and 5-3-1 besides rep scheme. Don't get this fucked up, so listen. The conjugate method trains, or you are actually training more traits or more contraction types. I'm just talking about the lifting. We got to take out any jumps or any running. You're just going to talk about the lifting. When you're in the gym, you are doing a wider range of training variants or contraction types or strength traits with conjugate. With 5-3-1, you're basically using the repetition method. Okay? This is just on paper. I'm explaining the differences. So, with conjugate, the way the most popular models set up. You have max effort, which is 90% or above, for 1 to 3 reps. You have repetition method, which is whatever fucking percentage for reps and sets. And then you have dynamic effort method, which is sub-maximal weight moved as fast as you can. Okay? So you're going over those 2 things. That's on paper. 5-3-1. And I haven't studied 5-3-1 extensively, which Conjugate I have. So if I'm fucking up 5-3-1, feel free to correct me, or I apologize, whatever. From my understanding and what I read, it's mostly repetition method. Now, that's the actual lifting. That doesn't mean that 5-3-1 won't build multiple traits. Okay? So now I'm talking about the back end on what you get. So you may be able to do 5-3-1 where you're only training 1 and get multiple traits raised after the training. So you might get faster, you might jump higher, and you might get stronger. With Conjugate, you're training all of those things in an effort to raise all those traits on the back end. All right? And like I said, that's without running, jumping, adding in those things. That is the easiest way for me to explain the difference. And I'm just going to fucking leave it at that, because you can get into other differences, but I think that's the biggest difference. From what I've read on 5-3-1, it sticks with more basic movements, or the same movements for longer. In Conjugate, you're rotating movements. But that's even kind of going into it too far. Like, to explain the main difference between the 2 methods, the traits and what you're training in the weight room is the biggest and easiest answer. It's the biggest difference.